Hello, my name is Norma Stives. I am the director at Life Choices Women's Center, located in Altamont Springs, Florida. We are a pregnancy resource center offering free services, education, and material goods to those who find themselves in unplanned pregnancies. We are very happy to empower women and men with knowledge that may not only help keep them healthy, but may also even help save their lives. At Life Choices Women's Center, we believe knowledge is power. That's why we have decided to share these 3-part videos so you can be empowered with life-saving information for you and those you love. The 3 doctors presenting these videos are passionate about saving lives and helping people be healthy. Happy learning.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Rebecca Peck, and I'm very blessed to be here. And I practice in Ormond Beach, not too far away. And I just like to dedicate, whenever I speak on pro-life issues, I dedicate it to my mother, whom I have never met. And I'll tell you a little bit about that story quickly, and then I'll get to the focus of my talk, helping pro-lifers understand we all know that abortion is wrong, but why contraception is wrong, and what about NFP? That best-kept secret of the Catholic faith. I think it's providential that today is the feast day of St. Monica, because for those of you who know about St. Monica, she prayed and she wept and she wailed for her son, St. Augustine, who was not yet a saint. He was wayward, and she prayed so hard for him for so many years, and he's a doctor of the church. And what a wonderful role model that we have as pro-lifers, because if we're not praying and wailing and weeping about the situation in our country, about how horrible the scourge of abortion is, about how wrong our world is turning, then we're not praying right. We don't just mention it as a passing thought. We live it, and I know you all do. You feel it to your very core. So we need to wail and weep, and we need to keep praying every single day and offer up meals, fast for this most important cause. You know, some demons, some oppressive forces are driven out. When Jesus' apostles said, Lord, why couldn't we drive out that demon? And he said, some demons are only driven out by prayer and fasting. So I ask you to contemplate that too. So we have a wonderful providential role model today, St. Monica. So I'm very thankful to be here. I thank God for my wonderful husband, Ben. He and I are soulmates. We are the only 2 physicians in the Volusia County there that do not prescribe contraception. With his help and many other very holy people, we helped shut down the abortion clinic on Mason Avenue in Daytona, and it has not reopened. I thank God for my 6 beautiful children. Each one of them has taught me that despite, no matter how dark our world is, children are a light and a blessing. Don't believe the Time magazine cover that shows the adorable picture of the child, $1 million from birth to college. You know, that's what our society does. They jab at you. Children are a sacrifice. Children are no fun. Children are a drag. No, children, as they always have been in the Old Testament, are a blessing. And ask any person struggling with infertility, and they know that children are a blessing no matter what this society tries to make us think. And I will tell you my story very quickly, but each child that God gave Ben and I, it was a confirmation of the blessing that children are, and I feel privileged. They're the best thing in my life, and they teach me so much. So no matter how dark our world is, don't agree with your neighbors that say, I could never bring a child into this world today. Don't agree with that. No, the world needs my children. The world needs your children. They are the light in the darkness. You know, don't give in to that, because what's the next thing? Oh, that contraception's okay? That abortion's okay, because who would want to bring a child into this world? Be careful, because words matter. We're going to talk about that, how words matter, how our medical societies have been playing with the meanings of words, and they confuse. You know, the devil he's just a great confuser. We're all confused. But if the truth was so black and white, like Dr. Hartman, when you listen to that beautiful baby's heartbeat, that's the truth with a capital T. And I will tell you a story of how God entered my world and showed me the truth with a capital T. I've always known that I was adopted. My parents were very straightforward about it, but I never knew the circumstances. And I longed to know my biological parents with a longing that no child that I've ever met has. I know now that it's a longing for God. You know, St. Augustine said, our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O Lord. And I now know that longing for my mother, who I've never met, is partly a longing for God as well. But when I was growing up, I made all kinds of stories about what my mother was like, but I never knew who she was. I lived my life a very lukewarm Catholic. I went to church when I felt like it. I got swept away in the secular society. I got swept away in the feminist movement. I believed the lies. I believed the lies that there's such a thing as safe sex. I believed the lies that contraception is good for women. I believed the lies that abortion is our right. It's our reproductive right for true freedom. I believed the lies that sex was okay. It was a recreational sport. I believed all of that, and I expected to be happy and fulfilled and free. And what a lie. I was miserable. And at age 25, I was looking around at my friends, and they were miserable too. And we went to counseling, and we laid on that proverbial couch, and we said, we followed all the instructions of society. Why are we miserable, you know? Oh, well, it can't be. You've bought hook, line, and sinker, you know, the sexual revolution. Can't be that. It must be that you're adopted, Rebecca, and you need to find your biological mom because you have a self-esteem problem, and that must be the problem. Now, that counselor that told me was actually right, but not in the way that they thought. And so, as God would have it, God entered my life with a great grace. You see, I was adopted through the state of New York, and the records were completely closed. No matter how hard I tried, I could not find the details of my biological adoption. I would have had to hire a lawyer or a private detective, and I was 25. I was broke. I didn't have that kind of money. But I called the Catholic Charities that arranged my adoption, and wouldn't you know that the same lady that had handled my adoption some 25 years prior answered that phone. And she remembered the situation, and she said, look, I'm going to prepare non-identifying information for you, a sheet of paper about the details of what I know. I am not supposed to do this, but I'm going to write down more than I normally would. And she hung up, and I thanked her. And I waited for weeks, and when it arrived, I found out things that changed my life, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here. Like I say, God entered my world with truth, with a capital T. I know you all know this truth, too. When I got that letter, I learned that my mother was on a piano scholarship at the University of Buffalo. Now, I play the piano, and I don't know why I was attracted to piano, because nobody in my family had been. But my mother was on a scholarship for music. She was dating a man that she knew that they were friends, but they weren't having sex. But the man was about to go to Vietnam. The year was 1965. I think he was headed out for a big offensive. He raped my mother. My mother never had sex before that, and she had told her parents that. The family knew about that. She was a good girl and she was in college. It had never happened before. She really didn't know what had happened to her. She went along and she was late on her period. She told her mother. They went to a Catholic doctor who advised her to go to a home for unwed mothers. Her family was just aghast. They couldn't believe it because she had never stayed out at night. She had never done anything wrong, but they sent her to the home for unwed mothers, and she had me. She wrote to my father. He never wrote back. She doesn't know if he got killed in Vietnam or what happened, but he never wrote back. She sacrificed for me. She gave up a year of her life for me, and she had me, and she gave me up for adoption. And that counselor was there when she gave me up, when my biological mother gave me to the adopted parents, and she saw the struggle in my mother's eyes. She wanted to keep me, but she couldn't. That piece of paper meant so much to me. I mulled it over. I mulled over my selfish lifestyle. I mulled over the concept of freedom that I had bought from the sexual revolution. And I mulled over what my mother had done for me and the real meaning of freedom and the real meaning of truth. And I vowed that I would never be fooled again. With God's grace, he got me into medical school, and I learned all that I could about sexual reproduction, about the beginning of life. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you that the forces are so against the people that want this kind of truth. From medical students to residents to practicing physicians, we are like salmon swimming upstream. We are constantly fought against. If we have articles we want to publish, it's impossible to get them into different articles. My husband and I went through an IRS audit because we were labeled pro-life. We lost our practice because of the Affordable Health Care Act and all the regulations. There's such persecution going on if you try to be truly a Catholic physician. Okay, I don't want you to think it's easy in any respects, but I consider it a privilege to stand up for the truth. It is an honor for my mother who had the courage to stand up for me, and I will always stand up for her, and I will always stand up for the unborn. Well, so what is the truth, and what are these lies? One of the lies is to be free, we get to use anyone we want, right? We're not hurting anybody. But the truth is that love is opposed to using people. True love is more concerned about the other's welfare than our own. True love is sacrificial. What my mother did for me to bring me life was sacrificial. That is true love. And we have to convince our young people, if you love this guy or if you love this girl, then you want the best for them. You don't want to get involved in a sexual relationship which might lead to them dropping out of school. That is what true love is. One of the most brilliant, holy people that we have had the privilege to know of in our lifetime is St. John Paul the Great. And he studied these issues more than anybody else. And he was firmly convinced that contraception and abortion are fruits of the same bad tree. He was convinced that using was the opposite of loving, not hating, but using. And he understood it so much that he devoted those theology of the body talks every week so that we could understand what we are truly made for. The second lie is the baby is not a baby, it's a fetus. When you abort a baby, you are somehow removing pre-human tissue. Now, this is a line that when I went to Planned Parenthood in my previous life, they told me that, oh, you're not really, hurting anybody. This is just pre-human tissue. Well, that is a lie. Life begins at the moment of conception when sperm meets egg. And if any of you are on, the internet, you can Google somebody's name, Maureen Kondik, who is a PhD in embryology, and she documents with extreme clarity and electron microscope pictures what happens when the sperm meets the egg and when that individual ceases to be its own unique genetic makeup, a new individual that is no longer sperm and no longer egg. There is no other event besides that fertilization, which has to be the beginning of life, except that it's not, according to the American College of OBGYNs and every other medical society that says that life begins at implantation. Well, what does that mean? Well, you see, the baby, the sperm and the egg are created in the distal fallopian tube, and then it takes about 7 to 10 days till it implants into the uterus. Okay, so what they're saying, ACOG and other groups, they're saying that life doesn't begin till that baby that's already been formed and had a million different transactions and genetical molecular transformations and developing its own organs at a rapid pace. All that's going on. It's like the Starship Enterprise has just been created, but it's not really the Starship Enterprise till it hooks up to its fuel supply. That's what they would have us believe. Implantation is the baby hooking up to its mother's blood supply. That is all that's going on. There's no way that that is more momentous or deserving of the title of the beginning of life than fertilization. So that's a big lie. Why would they do that? Why would they promote that lie? Because if they say that life begins at implantation, then they can use a progesterone shot, they can use the birth control pill, they can use the IUD, all of these things that they can promote, and then they don't have to say that their contraceptives are really abortifacients. You see, that's what John Paul saw. He saw that contraception and abortion are fruits of the same tree. They are the same. Many of these pills, for example, I've spent the last 3 years studying Plan B, which is a progesterone that they call contraceptive. We've spent the last 3 years proving it doesn't impact sperm, it doesn't affect cervical mucus, it prevents the baby that was formed at the distal third of the fallopian tube from implanting into the uterus. That Plan B is an abortifacient. It's an early abortion-causing drug. It's not a contraception. But again, the powers that be would have you think it's a contraceptive. Just like they'll have you think that What's the big deal about contraceptives, right? But they're really, the line is thinned. Many contraceptives are abortifacients, and that is a big deal, and that is suppressed by the media. Now, another lie is that contraception is good for you. Right, it's good for you just like how asbestos is good for you, because it's on the same list as these harmful chemicals like asbestos and other carcinogens on the International Agency of Research of Carcinogens. I'm not making this up. They think we're stupid. They think we're stupid. For example, in the 90s, they did a bunch of big studies on postmenopausal women, okay, who were given, remember, Premarin, Prempro, estrogen. So they studied these women. They thought initially that the estrogen and progesterone were going to be really good for the women, help prevent breast cancer, good for the heart. No. It had to be stopped early, and we see that these estrogen and progesterones cause an increase in breast cancer. Well, guess what? The birth control pill is estrogen and progesterone. It's the same stuff. And so our colleagues, Dr. Kallenborn and others, have proven that with studies showing that the birth control increases the risk of breast cancer. It's the same stuff. It's common sense. But they try to confuse it. But you can't confuse it. Look at the rates of breast cancer before 1960. What happened in 1960? The birth control pill. Right? Prior to that, breast cancer was not that common, but now it's 1 in 8. It's the most common female cancer. This one died. Let's see. Other lies are that, okay, the birth control pill is good because it prevents some cancers like ovarian or endometrial. But that's misleading too because, see, breast cancer is 1 in 8 and the birth control pill increases that risk of cancer. 1 in 8 people get that cancer. But see, ovarian cancer, only 1 in 125 people get that cancer. It's a very rare cancer. So the birth control pill increases the rates of cervical cancer and breast cancer, which are much more common. So you see how that's not really fair for them to say that, but they say it anyway. And there are many, many other bad side effects of contraception, such as blood clots and heart attacks and strokes. It's not good for you. It's chemicals. And what kills me is I have these patients that come in and they're exercising and eating organic and they won't take a hormone here or hormone there, but they have no problem with their OBGYN who gives them that daily birth control pill. They've been manipulated. Our young people have been manipulated. And I urge you on Facebook and in conversations to call them out on this. I guarantee they won't have heard it before. Another myth is that people can enjoy safe sex without consequences. That's perhaps the biggest myth of our time. And it's sad because those of us who treat patients, we see the devastation. We see the herpes that never goes away. We see people who have contracted HIV. We see people with other horrible STDs. We see unexpected pregnancies. And a lot of Catholics and Christians believe that if we just had more contraception, we would have less abortion. Well, that's another myth, because if you believe the Guttmacher Institute, which is the Planned Parenthood's arm of research, 70% of people who present for an abortion were, guess what? They were using contraception. So again, John Paul II was right. Contraception and abortion are fruits of the same tree. When you have to have your contraception, if it doesn't work, of course you would want abortion. But if you use natural family planning, which nobody's ever heard of in their life because the media is not ever going to give it any kind of credibility, people that accept their fertility as a gift and say, okay, I'm going to use these methods of natural family planning or fertility awareness, of which there are some wonderful methods, then you're already in tune with the possibility that if the methods don't work, because they're 95% effective, it's not 100%, but neither is the pill. The pill in actual usage is 92% effective, less in some populations. But when you go into it with a more holistic attitude, this is our gift of fertility, and if God gives us a baby, we're going to accept that. You don't have NFP people going to the abortion clinic for abortions. So this myth about contraception makes abortion rare is just laughable because, the contraception pill was introduced in 1960 and Roe v. Wade was legalized in 1973, and we still have millions of abortion. And contraception's been around for, 50 plus years. So, something's going wrong. A bit of the abortion is decreasing number. Surgical abortion is decreasing thanks to you and thanks to centers like this. God bless you guys. But a little of that is misleading as well, because things like what Dr. Hartman said with RU486 and with Plan B and Ella, which are early abortifacient pills, are not counted. So while surgical abortions may be in fact decreasing, which is due to the awareness that you all are bringing to people, that medical abortions are an unknown. They are most probably increasing. That means the total number of abortions is not decreasing. So contraception is free now with the Affordable Health Care Act. So contraception is not decreasing abortion. I think I only have a couple minutes left, but I would like to talk about natural family planning since it does not get much press. What is natural family planning? It is recognizing that God gives you fertility as a great gift. Now, what other system would you suppress with pills or destroy with, for say, a tubal ligation or vasectomy? You wouldn't do that to yourself, right? You would never shut down your respiratory system or your neurological system, right? So we have to change the way that we look at our fertility. But listen, how many of you know that a woman only ovulates 1 day a month? Did you know that? 1 day a month. So people are taking all of these extraneous, extreme measures, putting stuff in their uterus, IUDs, Depo, the pill, and they have an egg that can be ovulated 1 day a month. Now, sperm can live in optimal cervical mucus. Some studies say 3 days, some studies say 5 days. So at most, you're looking at a 6-day potential, what we call fertile window. Can't most people abstain for 6 days? I think they can. I think if people knew, look, we just have to figure out what these 6 days and avoid intercourse if we're trying to limit our family for those 6 days, I think most people would be okay with that. And the exciting thing on the horizon is I teach the Marquette method. We use urinary hormonal testing. It's just like a pregnancy test, except you're looking every day at the estrogen and the luteinizing hormone that your body makes, and you're able to find that window. You're able to find those 6 days that you should abstain if you want to limit your family. It can also be a wonderful way to target your intercourse to achieve fertility for those of you who are struggling from infertility. The last case I will tell you before I close, because my time is up, is that natural family planning is not just to avoid or achieve pregnancy and is a wonderful way to plan your family. It can diagnose medical problems. One of my favorite cases was a young lady who never had regular periods. We had her do the Marquette method. We determined through her urinary hormonal testing that she was always low. And lo and behold, her doctors had always given her the pill to shut down her system. This woman had a prolactin pituitary tumor in her brain that she never knew about, and it was NFP that allowed her to see that. So thank you for your work. Thank you for letting me speak.